Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is September 1st, 2018. Happy Labor Day weekend to everyone.
And happy autumn.
And happy autumn, right. According to meteorological terms, summer is now over by the meteorological calendar. Henrik, how you doing this weekend, bud?
Thank you. Very good. And I hope you are too.
I'm doing excellent for a Saturday, as a Saturday can only be. Taking a look at space weather here, 378.5 kilometers per second on the solar wind speed with a density of 4. We are blank once again today, giving us 3 days now without sunspots. That total now climbing above the 134 mark for 2018. Our KP is at 1 and 24-hour max is at 2. Not a lot of action right now. The SDO will indicate that as well. We are looking at some spotty, weak disturbances in the corona, but nothing big or anything to expect. However, SPACEWEATHER.com today had an interesting article. On September 3rd, Earth will cross a fold in the heliosphere current sheet, a vast wavy structure in the interplanetary space separating regions of opposite magnetic polarity. This is called a solar sector boundary crossing, and it could trigger geomagnetic activity around the Earth's poles. Arctic sky watchers should be alert for auroras when crossing occurs. And also tomorrow, and it's Saturday already, September 2nd, in other places of the world, but tomorrow here, this will mark 159 years ago where we had a geomagnetic megastorm. And it says here on Space Weather, picture this: a billion ton coronal mass injection slams into the Earth's magnetic field. Campers in the Rocky Mountains wake up in the middle of the night thinking that the glow they see is the sunrise. No, it's the northern lights. People in Cuba read their morning paper by the red illumination above the aurora borealis. Earth is peppered with particles so energetic that alter the chemistry of the polar ice. Hard to believe it really happened exactly 159 years ago today, September 2nd, 1859. As the day unfolded, the gathering storm electrified telegraphs, shocking technicians and setting their telegraph papers on fire. The Victorian internet was knocked offline, basically. Magnetometers around the world recorded strong disturbances in planetary magnetic field for more than a week. The cause of all this was an extraordinary solar flare witnessed the day before by British astronomer Richard Carrington. His sighting on September 1st, 1859 marked the discovery of solar flares and foreshadowed a new field of study, space weather. According to a NASA-funded study by the National Academy of Sciences, if a similar storm occurred today, it could cause trillions of dollars in damage to society's high-tech infrastructure and require years for complete recovery. In fact, a similar flare did occur 6 years ago on July 23rd, 2012. A CME rare power rocketed away from the sun. The storm was in many respects as strong as the 1859 event. Fortunately, it missed. The July 2012 event serves as a reminder that extreme space weather is not a thing of the past. So, for once, it's not a YouTube channel claiming this, but we do have, a respected website like SPACEWEATHER.com. Just go ahead and say it. It's going to take years for complete recovery if we ever experienced a storm like the Carrington event back in 1859. So they are not only just, they're confirming that this would be devastation to our infrastructure. $1 trillion. I'm sure they mean trillions of dollars in damage. But we've always heard the rumor that a storm like the Carrington event could wipe out the grid in today's society just because of how connected we are. And, when I see stories like this pop up, it's not just a scare tactic. It's not about fear. It's about possibility, and why studying solar cycles and how to adapt and how to be self-reliant. Topics like this are important because of things that are possible. And I'm not saying you got to live every day in fear of a solar storm or a flare smacking us anytime soon. But again, just a very high possibility. And it's not that we're due for another storm. It's been 159 years, and you can't say, well, it's been so long, it won't happen again, because that's, again, 2012. I guess we had a near miss. So,
well, we did have something. It was Wednesday. We had some magnetic, not like the ones, but I heard someone talking about that the hurricane that was coming very close to Hawaii, if that was going to hit Hawaii, and there have been a lot of problems. Then the first problem with the solar storm was that, and this is back Wednesday, that all the emergency channels, and when there are problems, of course, when hurricanes are destroying everything, they were going down, you know. So if the problems on the hurricanes in Hawaii had gone inland instead of out, you know, and the emergency channels were down, then they would have very big problems.
Yeah, well, I mean, and we were surprised at the amount of rain that this storm had dropped, and wasn't even making a direct impact. But I did see where there were communication issues from this basically crack in the magnetosphere that allowed plasma to enter, and which caused the magnetic field to reverberate, and these surprise storms happened. But yeah, so imagine if it would have made a direct hit. And also, you point out something interesting as well. Right around Harvey last year, and I'm not saying that this storm is exact as what happened with Harvey, but I find it a little odd that we get two sunspots, one pretty active and a pretty strong geomagnetic storm during a time where we are looking at tropical activity, and the intensification of how much rain actually fell. When, you know, in the beginning they were saying 20 to 30 inches in some isolated areas. There's areas that received over 50 inches of rain from this storm, much like Harvey, in a 3 to 4 day period, where they saw, what was it, 57 inches in Houston, maybe more. And also, if you remember, during Harvey, that was also during a time of increased solar activity. It was like a surprise brief increase, but the comparisons of the timing are there. But if you have to look back towards how strong the solar activity was last year at this time, last year's solar activity was a lot more intense. We saw X-class flare. Of course, it's only September 1st, but right now, as we speak, it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on our star here in space weather. But, you know, so I'm glad you kind of mentioned the whole hurricane thing as well, because last year when we had increased solar activity, we were dealing with Harvey, and it dropped 50 to 60 inches of rain in parts. This year, we were dealing with surprise storms, dealing with Lane, and the amount of rain that we were seeing out there. So weaker than last year, I don't know. That's a lot of rain for the islands.
Yeah.
Taking a look at our TSI, and this is another thing I'll be anxious to watch here soon as well. This is for August 25th. It is at a 1360.662. So are we going to see a big drop in TSI around the time of Lane strengthening? And the reason why I say that is because I remember when Harvey strengthened, the TSI I thought had taken a dip. I could be wrong. I'll have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure I remember correctly that the TSI took a drop during the intense time of Harvey. Could be a coincidence. Who knows? I'll be looking for it, though, here in the next couple of days. And speaking of storms, Super Typhoon Jebi ties for the strongest storm on the planet for 2018. It's heading towards Japan. It says here, the main threat from this storm will be rainfall. Authorities are warning residents to prepare for flooding and landslides. Basically showing like, hey, that's a pretty well-defined storm there. It looks like the system will accelerate northward to northeastward towards central Honshu after 1800 UTC on September 3rd. Exit into the Sea of Japan and be over eastern Russia near Sakhalin Island by 1800 UTC on September 4th, 2018. Jebi is expected to weaken more rapidly during the phase as it encounters increasing vertical wind shear, land interaction, and cool sea surface temperatures. Concurrently, it will begin to extratropical transition by 1800 UTC time, again on September 4th, and become a gale force cold core low with expansive wind field by 1800, again, September 5th, 2018. 1800 seems like the magical number here in this timing. But so we take a look at this storm, and it does appear to get weaker as it crosses through Japan and into Russia as well. But pretty impressive right now on satellite. This area, Japan, has been hit pretty hard by typhoon season already. And Henrik, I'm sure you browse the What's Up With That website from time to time.
Yes, sir.
I read this article today, and you know, this lady here, the headline is nice to see. Alberta withdraws from Canadians' National Climate Plan, or Canadians. So it sounds like, okay, we're finally wising up, and basically, you know, we're going to stop taxing people CO2, right? Is that what this is all about? No, it's not. It's the actual opposite of how angry that citizens are in Alberta, how she is angry as well. That the government there in Canada is making this almost impossible to build this pipeline. And so now they're saying they're going to pull out of the climate plan, which is to follow the targets of the Paris Treaty target plan. But what I find funny about this is at the very end of this article, they point out what a hypocrite this lady is here, this Premier Notley here, that she's going to drop out of this climate plan, which is, you know, about taxing CO2 and all that good stuff. But she's going to jump up and down over a pipeline that is not going to be built. Now it will bring jobs. I get that. It's going to bring jobs. That's good. And the point she's trying to make is that we're already mining the hell out of this. The CO2 that we're releasing from just producing this resource. So she basically is saying, I'm pulling out of your climate plan, but she did state that the carbon tax will stay in effect, that she might just relax it and not increase the carbon tax. When she got it approved in 16, she raised it in 17. It's up for another raise, but she has put a freeze on the increase of the carbon tax in Alberta. Does this surprise you to see politicians playing politics over citizens' taxpayers' dollars?
No, absolutely not. They do it all the time, I think, even in Denmark. And I think it was about 2 or 3 shows back where you were telling quite rightly how much CO2 there is coming from the oceans and how little there is coming from the humans. So I would like to ask those politicians or the people in head of the world when they are going to tax the oceans, you know, because the oceans is the problem if we have a problem, which I don't think we have.
Well, and I love it because they'll say, well, you know, the oceans are warmer because the CO2 is a greenhouse gas and it's trapping all the heat, keeping all the heat to the surface and warming everything up. And you know, that's not how it works. But
No.
You know, it's just unfortunate for not just Canadians, but everybody, that our leadership acts like that, you know, they're on one side, but actually this is just for political gain. If she really wanted to pull out of the climate plan, she would get rid of the carbon tax, because that's the biggest thing here. I think that's what a lot of us are upset about, is these EPA regulations that continually point towards emissions from man being the problem here when it's not. Meanwhile, the government's taxing the hell out of your energy, making tons of money from us. And by 2035, the number is supposed to be through the roof if we continue to follow this gibberish of the Paris Treaty climate plan. And I think a lot of people are smartening up, though, Henrik. I think there are a lot of leaders we've reported on it here the last couple of weeks. A lot of people are pulling out of these climate plans.
Yeah, but I'm in very good stage today. I'm in good humor because, I don't believe a shit anymore. Because, I've just read, that scientists has just given us 17 years more before point of no return. They are keep pushing everything. As I always say, they're pushing. And, the Danish government, they're all about man-made global warming, of course. That's all that matters, And now we have a new study out that are telling that the Danish farmers are poisoning the fields, with poison. Of course, we know that. That's no secret, and they're doing it all over the world. But now there's a Danish study out. They are linking the poison the farmers are using to cancer in children, And what does the Danish government do you think? They are going out and say, come on, let's talk about it. It's no problem. Come on, we're not going to stop it. We're not going to take it off the shelves, So they are wrong about global warming, and they are wrong about children getting poisoned by the fields, And I mean, who can trust a government like that? They are lying all the times. All they can do is lie.
Well, it's just like here. You were talking about them pushing the new climate doom goalpost, and there was an article on several websites. And, they keep talking about this, keep warming below the 2 degree Celsius. Well, I'm glad they mentioned that, because today we got Dr. Roy Spencer's numbers in. And last night we were kind of just joking and taking a small little bet here on where we would be for August. And based on the heat that we felt in July, I think some of us were not surprised to see that value of 0.32 for July. So a lot of us felt like the August heat stuck around, maybe in places where you're from. But according to the data, that's not the case. We came in for a reading of plus 0.19 above baseline. Several of us have picked numbers around the 30s, some of us in the 40s like me. I believe Rob was the lowest. He was at a 0.28. But for the most part, nobody saw these numbers that came in. They wouldn't have thought that. Northern Hemisphere came in at a 0.21. That's less than half of what it was in July. The Southern Hemisphere also dropped, not as drastic, but to a 0.16 above baseline. Tropics dropped a whole 0.17 down to a plus 0.12 above baseline. The lower 48 was probably one of the most dramatic drops, and that is 0.50 last month down to a 0.06. Actually, I take that back. The Arctic also lost temperature in value this year. July was a plus 0.029. I'm sorry, 0.29. This month we're at a 0.9, so we lost a value of 2.0 on the month. And then the last one here is, I believe, Australia. Would you say that's, well, you can't see this, Henrik. AUST. No. I'm assuming that's what they're going for here. This is pretty significant. The temperature in July in this part of the world was 1.37 degrees Celsius above baseline. In 30 days, the temperature had dropped a full degree and is now sitting at a plus 0.25 degrees Celsius above baseline. So just because certain parts of the United States and the UK have been feeling heat waves doesn't necessarily mean that it's hot everywhere like this. And I am so sick of the exploitation of these localized regional record highs that some of these, like Weather Channel, they exploited last night. We're talking about Boston hitting 95 and making a big deal about it. But yet Nobody on the Weather Channel is going to talk about this right here, which shows us completely different from what the consensus is saying about global warming. Can anybody show me in this graph right here where anything points towards increasing temperatures? If you had to just look at this graph as far as the physics of graphs go, we're at the very beginning of a decline. I thought last night, me saying that we're going to be at baseline or below baseline by February of 19 or early winter at some point was maybe pushing it. I honestly can't see that now.
Yeah,
That's
and
not
now I'm
pushing.
getting angry. You know what? Starman, he was sending me some links the other day with how good the weather was going to be in Scandinavia, and oh, we would have summer again. And Mr. Starman, where is there? What about the weather? Where is that now? I want the sun, please. I don't want rain again. I'm tired of rain. I hate rain.
Is that you're getting a lot of rain up there?
On off, yes, I will say Wednesday to Thursday it was raining almost 24 hours in a row,
Jeez.
non-stop. Yeah, that
So
was a lot of rain we had in that Wednesday to Thursday.
Are you guys dealing with any kind of flooding yet?
No, not really, but
It's been dry this summer.
yeah, but it almost drowned in August because we had so much rain anyhow, and then the newspaper was totally up and down, a few days ago, maybe a week ago, that the 2 first week in September would be very good and the summer would come back, and I could see on the forecast that they were right, and that's why I always say, 5 days, and then, well, there's a lot of if, and this time there was another if. So now we're not going to have so hot weather in Denmark anyhow. It's going to be from 62 to 73 Fahrenheit, with cloudy days and rain.
Well, that's beautiful. That's perfect weather in my opinion, but definitely not hot by any means. And
no, that's a total normally autumn weather.
Yep. I would love that weather right now. Unfortunately, we got about 4 more days here in the Northeast of temperature rise starting probably tomorrow, and then Monday through Thursday we're going to be in the mid 80s, close to the 90s. I think I read that there will be some spots around where we are might break some record temperature highs. But again, just because we have some isolated areas with record heat just goes to show we all thought for sure that we were going to see temperatures either remain in the 30 value or maybe go up to the 0.4, and it dropped. It dropped surprisingly to a 0.19. So we are a lot closer to baseline, especially I remember this time last year where we started to see an increase by the month up to October where it jumped into the 0.6 range. This year, I'm pretty sure we're about 0.3 value lower than what we were last year at this time. So even though July kind of had went up higher than last year's numbers, we dropped big time. But I think what's really surprising is the amount of temperature drop for August. And I just thought we had a pretty warm month of August here in the Northeast. But again, you can't base it on where your current location is. You have to look at everything. And these numbers are from a guy who says that he sort of believes in human-caused, climate change. He's probably showing these numbers. If he was a fan of global warming, he had to cringe this morning, but he's an honorable scientist and does the right thing. And I trust his numbers. I trust his work. This is the truth. And the truth is indicating that we are cooling. But yet we're still going to keep getting these global warming cards in front of our videos. It's kind of weird. Maybe it's an algorithm where YouTube picks it up through our videos when they scan them before they actually really release the video online. I don't know, because we don't have those cards in every video that we make. And I'm pretty sure there's times we probably don't mention global cooling or we don't talk about global warming sometimes. So maybe those words are triggers and set off the algorithms. But I just wanted to report on the temperature. I think that's a big deal. I don't think anybody expected a cooling of that much of a drop. But again, 0.19 degrees over baseline Celsius for the month of August.
Yeah. And everybody is talking about the stuff that is melting in Greenland. Of course, something is melting in Greenland. I mean, they have had summer like everybody else, but nobody is talking about how much more ice we are gaining. And yesterday, Tony Heller was out with a report, and I think everybody should read that. That's a very, very good one.
I like Tony.
Yeah, me too. Jake, can you smell smoke?
Smoke?
Yeah.
Why? Is something on fire?
I hope not. I cannot smell smoke. It was just if you could, then you should put it out, you know.
Over baking brownies. We're actually heading to a cookout here in a little bit. If you can smell that, that's good.
Oh, you're not fair now.
Oh. All right. I wanted to share this real quick. This one's kind of lengthy. I don't know if I can probably try to condense this. Either way, you guys can check it out on your own time as well. But I found this interesting. The New Zealand Climate Science Coalition has discovered that the Royal Society of New Zealand cannot support its contention that man-made global warming is real and dangerous. And this goes on, talks about the code of ethics from the Royal Society. This goes on to talk about how the Science Coalition in New Zealand is asking for proof that supports these claims that its government is making. And they're finding out that these are just sensationalist claims. In fact, right here it states that the panel did not provide any evidence that his claims were supported by observational data. And they were talking about how if we don't do something, temperatures would rise by 3 degrees at the end of the century. It did claim that he was quoting the consensus view and that the president was acting on behalf of the Royal Society, so he was not bound to any of the society's code of ethics. I love how these responsible leaders that we elect find ways to dance around the loopholes so they don't have to be held accountable for anything that they say. But just a huge another example of how people just taking the word for what the consensus says. And there's a saying in here that was used for the UK's Royal Society, and it's take no man's word for it. And it seems that here in New Zealand, their Royal Society has been substituted for take my word for it. Because when you ask for proof, they can't present it. They haven't been able to prove it yet. So their science coalition is filing complaints and are now pulling away from this notion that we should all just jump right in because the consensus is saying so. So guys, take a look at it. The link's going to be in the description. Read this article. I think it's really starting. This is the beginning of the awakening of people worldwide, scientists alike. The word's catching on. The drumbeat's getting louder. And these science coalitions are turning things around and asking for transparency, a lot like what our United States government is trying to do now in the EPA, where they want to have an open window policy when it comes to when lawmakers are putting regulations on things that are environmental related. Taking a look at our weather here in the U.S., some rain showers going across southwest Ohio into central Ohio, actually delaying the Ohio State Buckeyes by about 20 minutes due to lightning. But nothing real impressive on the radar to look at. The East Coast, the southern East Coast, Georgia, you guys are seeing some tropical thunderstorms popping up. Same in the Gulf Coast. Jackson, Mississippi, be on the heads up. Mobile, Alabama, you've had off and on showers going on. And, of course, New Orleans has been peppered with showers and thunderstorms as well. Nothing major to report. We are watching, once again, some weather going across the upper Midwest. And right now, it is Michigan's turn. Grand Rapids, some heavy thunderstorms passing through central Michigan, the northern part, the UP. Doesn't seem to be too hateful, just some regular light rain showers up there in the interlocking area as well. But really nothing too major going on in the weather today as far as headlines. Your typical August pattern. Albuquerque, New Mexico, some showers moving out of the area, typical for their monsoon season. And again, in the Northwest, just quiet. Wanted to show you guys something in the GFS, and I'm not really concerned about, trying to track any hurricanes or anything because the GFS is still not showing anything yet in the Gulf, but I will get to that here in a second. But what I did find interesting here, and I'll stop it here in a sec right there. Check it out. We have snow showing up on our GFS outlook. And it's not the first time it showed up, but that's the most I've seen. And that was for September 7th. The really strong high pressure system moves out. And then once again, we see chances for snow near the same area on the 12th and the 14th of September. Again, 2 chances of snow in that same region coming up in the next 15 days. So has the year flown by. But I will say there is an interesting storm to watch here. This could be a little concerning. The California Baja area. We have a Pacific. I'm going to see if I can get a better view of this. But we have a storm that is moving up into the California Baja Pacific area. And let's see if we can see what this looks like. This thing develops, and it does look like to me like it's going to get its act together here and continue this northerly track. Those bars get really tight at the end here. So that may be something to watch. And it's ironic. We had a gloom and doom headline prediction from CBS News, so we'll just blame them. But on this run here, this GFS run takes this storm well out into the Pacific. But right here we have another one at the very end that's making its way towards the Baja region. So we'll have to keep our eyes on that. It looks like it gets a little bit more disorganized as it heads closer to U.S. territory in northern Mexico. But I just thought I'd mention that real quick. That's not until September 15th. The GFS really lately has not been relied upon for any kind of storms or tracking of storms. It's been really their Euro models have dominated all year this year. Want to bring up quickly as well that the tropical Atlantic temperatures have gone up today. Also, the El Nino has dropped. It went back up briefly, but now is dropping once again. Nowhere near where we need to be for that El Nino. We are looking more and more like a neutral type El Nino situation. And the North Atlantic has jumped up today as well. We are at negative 0.391. That is the second closest to baseline that we have seen since April of 2018. And taking a look at hurricane weather real quick, that first wave that they've been watching over the coast of Africa looks like it's going to stall out in the middle of the Atlantic. It should not be a threat to the United States whatsoever. And I did want to mention we have Florence out here. Sustained winds of 45 miles per hour. It is moving right now at 14 miles per hour, west-northwest at 14 miles per hour. And then this situation right here, they are looking at a 40% chance of cyclone formation in the next 5 days. So again, September 6th, September 7th, September 8th, things could be a little bit interesting for formation of a tropical storm, possible a Category 1 or Category 2 hurricane. And with that being said, Henrik, was there anything that you'd like to add today as far as any headlines that you've heard or just an overall simple message to our listeners for the GSM?
Yeah, I have 2 things. First of all, then I will say that, people are always telling us how we are destroying the world and there are no coral reef. What is it called in English? Coral reef. The coral
Yes,
in the
coral
ocean.
reef.
Yeah, and now they have found a new one, not so long from the coast of United States, South Carolina. they have found it's about 150 kilometers long, So I just want to say it's not dying. Everything, I don't think they know how big the ocean is. So there is a lot of hope. And then I just want to say, Rolf, min norske ven, jeg håber, du har det rigtig godt. Hej, Rolf. And the last thing I want to say is that today there was a guy from our community who's listening right now, and his name is Matt Mitcham, and he was sending me some private videos with his garden, and he is having some red carrots, red carrots. And in Denmark, we only have not red, but what do you call it? Like orange color.
Okay.
And he have a lot of other stuff. And then I said to him that I think he should open his own channel because we can all learn from each other. So now he has opened a YouTube channel, and his name is Matt Mitcham. And I hope someone will go in and subscribe him. He's from England, Norwich, and he's actually digging in his garden right now. So I hope he has some light or a lighter. So go in, please.
You can never have enough referencing for gardening. I know yesterday we mentioned Radical Gardener as an excellent channel for gardening, and you said this guy's growing red carrots, so this ought to be interesting as well. But to have different gardening channels throughout the world that would be a great network to reference people. If you're gardening here in the upper Midwest, you know no one to help you better than Radical Gardener or any kind of basic gardening. And then for guys like you, where your part of your world is and how to grow in that area, and this new guy that you're mentioning. So this is great that we're finding more people that are trying to be interactive with the GSM community for the right purposes, and that is to teach and show as much information as possible to help people get ready for this this climate shift that we're going to see in the near future. Maybe not so much for Henrik and myself and Mari, but definitely going to affect our children's and our grandchildren's future generations and how things thrive from then on out. Well, Henrik.
Yeah, and I just want to say quick that Matt Mitcham is not only having carrots, of course, he's having a lot of other stuff. And why he's digging right now is because he's getting ready for building a what do you call it, a polytunnel. It's like a greenhouse in plastic, so
nice.
Maybe he will make some videos with that so people can see how he's doing it. I don't know, but I hope so. But thanks for today.
No, thanks for joining us, Henrik. Always a pleasure. I'm glad we had a chance to sit down and talk a little bit. Sorry for the short show, folks, but we hope everyone will get out and enjoy Labor Day weekend with your friends and family. I know we are here just in a little bit. That's going to conclude our show. Henrik, oh, wait. I want to check in with Miss Mari over here real quick before we say goodbye.
Oh, yeah. Don't forget the
boss.
bus.
Any more ridiculous haircut requests?
No requests for bowl cuts today, Jake. You got the camera off. So, no, but really. Wonderful people in the chat today. Radical Gardeners in here. Starman, I keep on poking at him. I really want him to come on live.
Yep.
I miss him so much. He is absolutely wonderful. We got Rob. There was something about, I don't know, Henrik said something was on fire, and then somehow it resulted to smoke, cobwebs in your head. I don't know. Not very nice, people. Be nice to Jake. It was Rob's fault. I'm going to blame Rob. He's a wise ass.
You know what, Mary? I think you are a very good cutter. I think he's got a great hair.
Jake has great hair.
Yeah,
most men his age would kill for his hair. It's soft, and it's
I would.
No bald spots. It's beautiful, lovely, soft. I like giving him head rubs and scratches, right, Jake? Okay. He's like my little Wookiee Sasquatch.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. Thank you.
Back on topic. Get back in the producer's box, you. Yeah, it's like bringing your kids up on stage with you and having them say a few words. You never know what they're going to say next. Spouses are the same category. So anyway, with that being said, guys, thank you for tuning into the Grand Solar Minimum channel. We will talk soon. Enjoy your Labor Day weekend.